Hanker Automotive Group.
And now, the Rock Newman Show.
Folks, welcome back. I am Rock Newman. We are broadcasting from the Langston Hughes Room at Busboys and Ports, 14th and V Street, Northwest Washington, D.C., where you can always hear on a Saturday morning from 9 to noon. Great conversation, and come and enjoy just a spectacular breakfast. Come on down for the grits, shrimp, catfish, and all the rest. It's wonderfully here at Busboys and Ports. Let me tell you, I started doing my first show from the Washington, D.C. scene on February the 23rd of 2012. And as I made a list of potential guests that I wanted to have on the show, being that this was a Washington, D.C. based show, being that we wanted to deal with things cultural, political, educational, and all the rest, one of the people on my list up top was this sister who is with us now. It is because as we researched her body of work, she has been someone since her college days that has worked tirelessly, that has worked intelligently, that has worked really in a way to make this world a better place. The tagline on the Rock Newman Show is, "We are one."
Yes.
And we know that that is still not quite a reality yet. That is an aspiration. And there are some people that have worked tirelessly, that are working tirelessly to make that not just an aspiration, but a reality. And Barbara Arnwine, whether you know her or not, she is one of those people who has done that for a very long time, and we are truly honored, Barbara, to have you on the Rock Newman Show this morning. Welcome, and thank you for taking the time to come here.
Well, it is a great honor for me to be here today. Thank you so much for inviting me.
There are so many places we can start. Your title of President and Executive Director of the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights under the law.
Yes.
Tell me all about that. Tell me what you do. Tell me why that was formed and the kind of work that you all do.
Well, this is a great year for the Lawyers Committee. This is our 50th anniversary. We were founded in June 21st, 1963 by President John F. Kennedy.
Okay.
We are one of the few private civil rights legal organizations. In fact, we're the only one that has ever been founded by a president of the United States. And he founded the Lawyers Committee because on June 11th of 1963, he gave his famous, civil rights speech.
Sure.
The next day, of course, Medgar Evers was assassinated.
Yes.
And he saw nothing but chaos as the future of America regarding race relations. So he said something has to be done.
Yeah.
And he says the private bar is sitting back and isn't doing enough to fight for racial justice.
Right.
I'm going to create something that will do that. So he called 250 of the top lawyers in the country. And by the way, told the organizers that they had to make sure that 50 of the lawyers who came were African American. And he said Negro at the time.
Sure,
but,
of course,
but that's the time of the parlance, right?
Sure.
But interestingly, that organization came together and has been going strong for these last 50 years. And what we do is that we litigate the major civil rights legal cases. We advocate in front of Congress and state bodies for progressive civil rights legal policies, and we educate the public. And we mobilize the public. So in the last couple of years, we have been on top of this voter suppression fight like no one else.
Yeah.
I mean, the Lawyers Committee produced the map of shame. We led the
we want to talk about that map of shame.
We led the mobilization throughout the country, and we are still engaged in the fight of our lifetimes, the fight of this democracy over its future, because there's a real difference and a divide ideologically between those forces that believe that democracy should be limited and only available to people who have high income and are highly educated, and those of us who believe it should be a franchise open to every American citizen. So this is a fight. This is the fight of our lifetime.
Yeah, I could not wait to have you on, because I wanted to talk about all this. I wanted to get up in it.
Yes.
There was a manifestation in the last, I was going to say month, but it really goes back. It goes back to Barack Obama. It's before he got elected. But once he got elected, the dogs were unleashed.
Yes.
I mean, let me put it this. Let me say it this way. The dogs broke their chains.
Yes.
And came out. And I mean, and I'm talking about the dogs. I'm talking about the dogs of racism. You know,
yes, I know.
It's the dogs of racism that hide behind the dogs of policy.
Yes.
They talk about policy, but they seethe. You see them seething. You see them foaming at the mouth.
Yes.
And you know the root cause because we know what we know. You
Yes.
know, oftentimes when you say, well, you can't prove discrimination or racism, you know, by the letter of the law, or what someone did or what someone said. But you know what? My father once told me, speaking of a dog, he said, you know, if a dog crosses the street and gets hit by a car, he will never do it again. He will never get hit by that car again because he knows what a car will do to him.
Yes.
Those of us who see and have understood and have been victimized by racism, we know racism when we see it.
Absolutely.
Not necessarily that we might be able to prove it, but as I observe the political landscape since Barack Obama has been president, first of all, you go back on the day he was elected, when he was being sworn in, you had these folks who would want to turn back the hands of time on progress and civil rights, knowingly plotting, saying we want to make him fail. And that damn sure wasn't just rooted in policy.
Well, you know, what people need to understand is that this is a fight, what I call a fight over the demos. It's a fight over the people. You know, the Greek word for the people is demos, and it's a fight over democracy and demography. So it's a fight that, because the demography of the country is changing, that it's becoming more people of color, more heavily Latino, more heavily African American, more heavily Asian American, and of course there's Native Americans, and with progressive whites, you know, beginning to occupy a good segment of the white population, especially in the young, there is this fear of political dominance by the combination of those five groups. So what has happened is that because the demography has changed and is changing, all of a sudden people want to change the democracy and they want to limit the democracy so that these people can't exercise their power and can't exercise their rights. So for years, up until 2006 in this country, no state had anything called a voter ID law. Had no requirement.
Zero.
Had no requirement that you could only use a state-issued voter identification in order to vote. No one else. It never existed because as long as it was white America, that was fine. But once it became multiracial America, progressive America, all of a sudden, the whole concept of democracy started changing. People started talking about voter fraud and all the rest of this that's non-existent, but used it as a shield and as a front in order to restrict our democracy. If you don't think I'm right, if you think I'm just talking, read the writings of a gentleman called Matthew Vadum, V-A-D-U-M. He has written an article called "Giving the Poor the Right to Vote is Like Giving Criminals Burglary Tools." And so when you hear that whole speech and talking that by Romney about leeches and takers and all of them, they're talking about people who they think should not have the right to vote. So they're saying that if you're not gainfully employed, if you are not, you know, if you don't have wealth, that you shouldn't have the right to vote. So that's how these people, that's how bad they think. That's how much they want to limit our democracy, not to mention the racism. So it's the demography, because when President Barack Obama was elected he was elected because that new demography came together
Yes.
and put him into office.
Yeah.
That's what they fear.
Yeah.
Because they see political domination for years to come by that new demography.
And it ultimately frightens the hell out of the concept of white supremacy.
Right, and also it challenges plutocracy. You know, plutocracy is the concept of wealthy people should rule.
Sure.
And it challenges that because it says that all Americans, regardless of income status and class, should have the same equal right to vote. You know, the beauty of democracy is that on election day, your vote, my vote, the most wealthy vote in the world, Warren Buffett's vote, is no more powerful and should be no more powerful than the vote of the least of us.
But the Roberts Court and Clarence Thomas don't seem to think that way.
No way.
Because they rule more and more and more in their rulings.
Yes.
That the almighty dollar,
the Shelby case,
has
horrible.
more and more influence on
citizens.
the election until that it seems to be getting to the point. And I'm telling you that it is something that, as I observe politics, I am concerned about. It's hard to frighten me, but it's something that I'm really concerned about. And one of the reasons I want to use this microphone.
Yes.
This restaurant talks about making the world a better place one meal at a time. We want to make the world here a better place one conversation at a time.
Yes.
And to be able to use these microphones and to say to people, as many folks as we can get to, there is the way that these politicians are shifting policy. And right now with this conservative court talking about, and I'd like for you to explain this a little bit,
yes.
About how more and more that outside influence, dollars can impact these elections. It is what appears to be diminishing what is supposed to be democracy, where one vote, one man, one vote, where the kind of influence that these dollars have. Can you talk to us about what has happened?
Yes, the court issued a terrible decision a few years ago called Citizens United, and basically held that corporations had the same rights as individuals, and were on the same level as a person, and could therefore spend as much money as they wanted to. In fact, it was worse than the individual limitations on how much money you can give. They said that they had no restrictions on the amount of money that they can spend. That opened the floodgates for people like the Koch brothers and others to come in and to just start, spending untold millions and billions of dollars on elections. Now, what's fascinating, folks, is that remember that in 2012, $5 billion were spent on the presidential election in total. But what was fascinating is that Barack Obama won, nevertheless, even though the majority of that money was spent against him.
Right.
He won nevertheless because people mobilized. People power still has strength in our country.
Yes.
We can't forget that. An educated electorate cannot be beaten.
Right.
And money is meant to distort, deceive, and mislead the electorate.
Right.
But what's powerful is that when we get out there and we do the right education, the right mobilization with the people, we can beat it. And that's what we did in 2012. So they're trying to now think about, well, what else can we do to try to defeat them?
Gerrymandering.
Exactly. And people should know that when you look at this stalemate that we just came through with the, quote, shutdown of the government, that people got to understand that if, in fact, democracy was true and people were in Congress according to the way people voted, the House would be primarily Democratic. It would not be Republican because more votes were cast for Democratic House members than were passed for Republicans. But because of gerrymandering, but listen, folks, the bottom line is the reason why gerrymandering succeeded in 2011 was because we didn't turn out the vote in 2010. So here's the deal. There are elections coming up this November in Virginia, in New Jersey, and in other states. You need to be out there voting. In 2014, Everybody listening needs to have November marked on your calendar because you must vote in this midterm.
You know, since I've been an adult, every election I hear, this is the election of your lifetime. And you know, you kind of hear that sometimes and you say, well, that's what people say. But folks, 2014
counts.
2014 is showdown.
It's seminal.
It is showdown. It's
essential. It's imperative.
No question about it.
It is the election of our lifetime, and we're going to rock it.
It's the real deal, and we ain't talking about Holyfield.
We're going to rock it.
We're going to rock it.
We're going to rock it.
And we're going to be right back on the Rock Newman Show, rocking it with Barbara Arnwine when we come back in just a few moments after these important messages.
This is Leprechaun Tim Pohanka from Pohanka Nissan and Pohanka Hyundai. It's hard to be down on your luck when you're Virginia's first choice for new Nissan and Hyundais, but I need to sell 60 cars this week. Right now, I'll pay you big bucks for your good luck. Bring down any good luck charm you've gotten based on the sale price of the car you choose. I'll give you up to $4,777 off any nicer, newer car this week. Today, your lucky penny is worth plenty, up to $4,777 off any nicer, newer car you want. Stop moping and hoping you'll get approved. With my For the People credit approval process, the banks are looking to get lucky and lend to you, even if you've been turned down before. Bring me any good luck charm and I'll give you up to $4,777 off any nicer, newer car today. Hurry, once I get rid of 60 cars, the luck runs out. All offers require bank approval, so call us at 1-800-POHANKA, visit Pohanka Nissan and Pohanka Hyundai on Route 1 in Fredericksburg, or better yet, log on to TimPohankaForThePeople.com. And when we make a deal, I promise it'll be your lucky day. I'm Tim Pohanka, and I'm a leprechaun for the people.
Hello to all my friends in the DMV. I am Rock Newman from the Rock Newman Show. I want to tell you about the MGM Grand National Harbor, the most exciting project to come to the District, Maryland, or Virginia in quite some time. You're going to have great fun. Come on down, support this project with all you have. It is going to be wonderful for the area. We're going to increase our tax base. We're going to get funding for the police department, for ambulance, for fire, for education. It is really a project that is going to benefit our area. Folks, we want to support in a very strong DMV kind of way this great project from the MGM Grand National Harbor.
This is Leprechaun Tim Pohanka from Pohanka Nissan and Pohanka Hyundai. It's hard to be down on your luck when you're Virginia's first choice for new Nissan and Hyundais, but I need to sell 60 cars this week. Right now, I'll pay you big bucks for your good luck. Bring down any good luck charm you've gotten based on the sale price of the car you choose. I'll give you up to $4,777 off any nicer, newer car this week. Today, your lucky penny is worth plenty, up to $4,777 off any nicer, newer car you want. Stop moping and hoping you'll get approved. With my For the People credit approval process, the banks are looking to get lucky and lend to you, even if you've been turned down before. Bring me any good luck charm and I'll give you up to $4,777 off any nicer, newer car today. Hurry, once I get rid of 60 cars, the luck runs out. All offers require bank approval, so call us at 1-800-POANKA, visit Pohanka Nissan and Pohanka Hyundai on Route 1 in Fredericksburg, or better yet, log on to TimPohankaForThePeople.com. And when we make a deal, I promise it'll be your lucky day. I'm Tim Pohanka, and I'm a leprechaun for the people.
And now, the Rock Newman Show.
Folks, welcome back to this segment of the Rock Newman Show. We're here at Busboys and Ports, 14th and V Street, Northwest Washington, D.C., in the Langston Hughes room. I always feel good when I say that. We're broadcasting from the Langston Hughes room here at Busboys and Poets. I told you earlier that one of the individuals that was at the top of my list as a guest when I started doing this show was Barbara Arnwine. Barbara travels, crisscrosses the country more than most, and has an extraordinarily busy schedule, but we were able to get her here today. And I'm sure if you saw that first segment, you understand why I wanted her to be my first guest. A very dynamic, very powerful individual who just continues to fight in civil rights, continues to make this country a better place for all of us to be able not just to exist, but to live, and to live with a quality of life that is to be enjoyed by all. Barbara, we just came through a period of insanity.
Yes.
With this government shutdown and all of the madness and the attempts that the right, that the far right, the Tea Partiers, but you know, they're getting the brunt of the criticism. But I would venture to say that those more moderate people in the Republican Party share a lot to blame for not raising their voices earlier and cutting this insanity off. And if the Tea Party would have had enough strength and enough power and enough numbers, those more moderate ones would have gone right along with it. And and so what that equals is a very dangerous time in U.S. politics.
And people need to understand that this problem has been existent since 1996 during the Gingrich Revolution.
Yeah.
When all of a sudden party discipline inside the Republican Party meant that if you were a moderate, you had to keep your mouth shut.
Yeah.
And that has been going on now for almost 20 years, people. This whole fight, within the Republican Party for party control, party discipline, which means that if you don't walk the line, you're out.
Yeah.
And we saw that with Gingrich, and that's one thing I've always observed between the parties, is that the party discipline issue has been different. What's amazing about what Pelosi has done is that she's taken the Democrats, and what people haven't talked about enough about this vote that just went down that reopened the government and raised the debt ceiling, is that what she's done is been able to impose a new kind of party discipline within the Democrats. Because the Democrats were doing anything they wanted to.
Absolutely.
Blue dogs were running around, joining the Republicans. You had moderate Dems, acting like Republicans. Everybody was trying to build, what do they call it, a Republic-Dem or Demo-Republican? I mean, people were playing all these games. But what's amazing is that she has created a new party discipline where people feel good about it.
Sure.
And they want to be part of it. They don't feel like they're being beaten into, towing the party line, which is different than the Republicans.
Right.
Boehner should have had a backbone.
Yeah.
He was so cowardly in this fight.
Yeah.
And Boehner, just went with whatever he thought was going to keep him as the speaker.
Yeah.
He did not go with what was best for this country. It was a very, very destructive position, and I think it's unfortunate for the country.
And what you were talking about earlier, you said that they did not. They were that the Democrats now.
Yes.
Have a greater sort of party line.
Exactly.
And hopefully part of what they're doing is understanding the demographics of the country and how things have changed and how there has been a rainbow coalition that now has been brought forth. Now, we got somebody on the phone when we talk about Rainbow Coalition who a long time ago coined that phrase.
That's right.
And if I don't know exactly what the definition, what he meant when he coined it, but now when we see Latinos, when we see whites, when we see blacks, when we see the gay and lesbian community together, that to me is that rainbow coalition that those conservatives fought so hard against, and that this man, Reverend Jesse Jackson, fought so hard for. Reverend Jackson, welcome to the Rock Newman Show. I'm here with a good friend of yours, Barbara Arnwine. Is Reverend Jackson on the line? Reverend Jackson, can you hear us? We're going to get Reverend Jackson sooner or later.
Okay.
We're going to make that connection to Reverend Jackson. This is live TV radio, and there's what's called a snafu. And I'll tell you what we're going to do. Until we get that right, we're going to continue here with Barbara when the sound person is able to patch Jesse in. So we're talking about, again, that rainbow. We're talking about that rainbow coalition. I just need to do this because it's live. Kamau, I can hear you in my ear and it's coming over.
Yes, Reverend.
Cut that off, please, and then we're going to continue with Barbara. Okay. There, as you might know, as you might be able to hear so clearly, there are technical.
Sorry, people.
There are technical difficulties. Barbara, if you would, you said something earlier about an informed and an educated electorate. That is such an critical component in a democracy working. And I would like for you to opine on what is going on, what has happened from the right in the onslaught of what seems to be their efforts at dumbing down America and screwing this educational system up.
Well, one thing people don't realize, not only has there been an attack on public education, but what people don't realize is, think about it. When most of us went to school, those of us who are, in our adulthood, the majority of us took a class called civics.
Yes.
Civic engagement, political participation, American government. Guess what? That's not taught anymore.
Yeah.
People don't understand that your children, you need to be asking your children in high school. The majority of them are not taking these classes anymore. They're not being taught. That's why people don't know what a Congress is. That's why they don't understand what a state government is. That's why they have no idea what a democracy means. They don't understand what a Republican Party, Republican form of government means. They have no understanding because they're not taught it. Yeah. Remember that in the 1960s, most people don't realize it, but when people were fighting for civil rights, they also had something else that was important called a freedom school.
Yeah.
A freedom school taught people about what a government should look like, taught people about democracy, taught people why it was important to vote. We don't have anything like that anymore, either being taught as part of the school system or privately being run by organizations. That's what's missing in our society. That's the danger.
Yeah, and we've got something missing here on the technical aspects. We're going to take a quick break. Right now, we're going to go to a break, get those technical difficulties handled, and we'll be right back on The Rock Newman Show.
can hear her. Yeah, I'm here. Check. Can you run the music or something? Got quiet going on right now. No, too much.
Uh-oh, it's ringing.
Don't. And now, The Rock Newman Show.
My baby drives a pro handcuff.
The weekend is here, and no matter what the weather's like outside, you'll find the deals in
Approved in 24 years. It's not
My
something.
baby drives a
And you
pro
know what rock
handcuff.
feels like?
And now, The Rock Newman Show.
It's been amazing.
Folks, welcome back. Sorry for those difficulties. We're going to pick up where we left off here. My guest this hour is Barbara Arnwine. We had real technical problems with Reverend Jackson there in Chicago. He has said that he will come back with us next week. We're going to talk a little bit later in this segment about a protest that's being planned near FedEx Field on Sunday. Reverend Jackson has absolutely joined forces with those enlightened folks who understand that that name that is being used to refer to the Washington football team is a racial slur. It is racist, it is condescending, it is disrespectful, and it comes out of a genocidal history of the Native Americans. And if you know anything about Jesse Jackson's work or Barbara Arnwine's work, you know that, neither of them tolerate that kind of thing. They've been fighting all their lives against it. Barbara, please, there is so much. You've been executive director of this Committee on Civil Rights under the Law for the last 24 years. What other kinds of work are you engaged in under that umbrella?
Yes, well, what people need to know about the Lawyers Committee is that We are a 50-year-old civil rights legal organization, and we're one of the largest civil rights organizations in the country legally, because what we do is we work with all the major law firms. Over 200 major law firms give us just thousands of pro bono hours. So last year, for example, in 2012, our annual budget was $8.3 million, but our donated services brought that budget up to $47 million.
Wow.
That's how much pro bono services we get from the private bar, over $39 million just in 1 year. And that means that we do more. We are the size of 2 large international law firms, if you looked at us. And what we do is we litigate cases involving educational opportunities. Many of you have read about our victory last week, where we sued the state of Maryland for discriminating against the HBCUs, the historically black colleges and universities. And we had a great victory last week, where the judge ruled that Maryland had in fact discriminated and violated the United States Constitution by not providing the same level of program services and purposely duplicating services to drive the black colleges out of business and out of competition.
For example, to kind of just break this down, is like, for example, like a Morgan State University, they would have these particular courses that were proprietary.
That's correct.
In essence. And when these other institutions that were more heavily funded by the state of Maryland go out and offer those kinds of same programs at a much lesser price, then Morgan State suffers. And your case proved that there was detriment, and that there was ultimately discriminatory detriment.
And that they purposefully, would take the best science classes, the best math, et cetera, and put them at the predominantly white universities. That they would take where the black colleges had great courses, they would purposely create a duplicate course over at the white universities, so that white students would not come to the black schools, and to attract the black students to the white schools. So we went after that, and we won. And so now we're going to go into settlement, because they got to come up with money to redress this discrimination that's been so ugly and rampant over the years. And so we're looking forward to that settlement discussion. Another good example is that most people know that a lot of people in this country have criminal background because of the inequities in our criminal justice system. We know that our criminal justice system is racially unjust, and as a consequence, many employers will not hire you if you have a criminal background, or even if you have an arrest record. Regardless of the fact of whether or not you were convicted of anything, they won't hire you. So we have sued the United States Census Bureau. Because during the last census, they wouldn't hire anybody with an arrest record, which means they wouldn't have hired me. Because if you're a civil rights leader, what do? You go to jail. You better go to jail protesting something. So they wouldn't hire me. They wouldn't hire all these good people. And guess what? We found out in discovery that because they have this absolute ban on anybody who had an arrest record, regardless if they were prosecuted, regardless if they were convicted, that over 700,000 people were denied employment. 700,000. So that's another case that we're litigating right now. The Lawyers Committee is very active in community economic development. We're helping people build health clinics, helping people build employment centers. We're helping people build grocery stores. We help build community gardens. We do things to make communities excellent and strong and powerful. We also do work, very strongly in the housing area. If you have one of those people who have had a mortgage that was in foreclosure, and then you receive the letter from somebody saying, "Oh, we can help you," Just give us $5,000 and we will help you modify your loan so that you can, and it turns out that you then get no services. And you're out $5,000. Well, we have been suing those companies and putting them out of business. We have put all kinds of companies out of business because they've been out there pretending to be the federal government, pretending to be the state government, pretending to be banks, just lying to people and stealing their money. So we have been really strong in the foreclosure fight and very strong in protecting homeowners. And I invite anybody who wants to know more about us to go to our website, www.lawyerscommittee.org, lawyerscommittee.org, and I invite you to follow us on Facebook, on Twitter. Follow me. I'm Barb73 on Twitter, because we are constantly dropping knowledge. We believe in mobilizing and organizing and empowering our communities, and we believe that the fight is constant. We are a nonpartisan organization. Even though I talk about what's going on with the Dems and the Republicans, we are nonpartisan. We have no alliance to any political party. Our alliance is to racial progress.
And let me just say
equality.
something. And let me say something about that, because you talk about these firms that are pretending to be federal, or pretending to be state, and all the rest. Yet you have, again, I know you're nonpartisan, but I see one side of the political divide fighting for regulation. And that other side, that right-wing side, fighting for deregulation. So that these kind of companies here can continue to practice what they do, and it hurts the little people.
What people don't realize is that wealth in America, there's a reason why African Americans and Latinos have less wealth than whites. Not just racial discrimination, but the way that racial discrimination plays out. Think about this, folks. One of the most important assets for anybody to have wealth in our country is your home.
Is the home. And
so if, in fact, there's redlining going on, where they're marking down the values because it's a black neighborhood or a Latino neighborhood, and you got people in there mortgage scamming and stealing people's money, that this is a real detriment. So I call those racially predatory practices. They're economic, racially predatory practices. Then you have the criminal justice system. Think about it. All the money we spend on lawyers, all the money we spend on bail, all the people who have put their homes up in order to help, secure bail. Think about the wealth drain on the black community just because of the criminal justice system that targets us. Think about it. In this country, last year, there were 900,000 arrests for simple marijuana possession. Of those 900,000 arrests, 3/4 of them were people of color, mainly African Americans. Even though whites use marijuana at the same rate as blacks, in fact, use it more in some areas. And so it's this kind of racially targeted prosecution that drains our wealth, racially predatory practices that drain our wealth. But the Lawyers Committee, we're out there. We're fighting these things. We're really, focused on protecting our communities and giving people their wealth back. And that's what's been beautiful about our cases and the predatory loan situations and then these loan modifications is not only have we gotten the companies to go out of business, but we've gotten people's money back. And we've saved their homes, and we've helped them in all of these situations. So it's very, very important for people to understand, never give up. Don't just feel like you're disempowered and you can't fight back.
That makes me think about something. I looked at the news of Lauryn Hill going to jail.
Goodness.
Lauryn Hill going to jail for, I forget what it was, a couple 100,000.
Oh, please.
It might have been $1 million. It might have been $1 million in unpaid taxes and improper filing. Whatever it was. And I look at Wells Fargo and the Bank of America, who have shattered communities, shattered lives to the tune of billions of dollars of losses to individuals and filthy gains for themselves. and nobody goes to jail. There's a fine. There's a breaking news story of $100 million fine here and there after they've raked in billions.
Well, I still, have the laugh about the segment that was on TV where after the stop and frisk case, when Judge Silent, found that New York had been purposefully racially targeting African Americans and blacks, where they had, arrested over, they had stopped and frisked over 4.4 million Latinos and blacks, even though the population of African Americans and blacks in that city is less than 4 million. So they were just stopping people routinely over and over and over again, harassing people to try to keep them out of Manhattan, try to keep them out of these areas. And in this segment, in this comedy show, there's a black reporter who comes on the show and she says, I'm standing in a high crime neighborhood. And this is where stop and frisk should be. Yeah. And people say, well, where are you standing? And she says, I'm standing at Wall Street.
Hello.
So there are, so comedy sometimes, can tell truth in a powerful way. And I just think that, we need to keep our eyes on these racially predatory practices. We need to fight them, combat them, stop them. Regulation makes sense. It's important that we have, good laws, good rules, good oversight. And I really want to encourage people to, once again, to follow what the Lawyers Committee does at lawyerscommittee.org, because we are constantly putting out information. We do have a hotline that you can call if you are experiencing a loan modification and you think it's a scam or a fraud and you're not sure and you want to know where you can get real help. Then call us, because most of the places where if you really need help, guess what? Those services are for free, people. They're for free.
I am unapologetically highly biased when I talk about higher education and thinking that Howard University is perhaps the greatest institution of higher learning in the world.
Yes.
So I think I read something wrong on your resume that said you graduated from Duke. You sound like a Howard sister.
I graduated from Duke University, people.
If I ever heard one.
I did.
And I find that interesting. I just recently had two godsons to graduate from Duke University.
All right,
they're twins, as a matter of fact.
Right now.
Early on, they played on the football team, and they both were truly scholar athletes, and they put an emphasis on scholar, and they're off into the world.
Excellent, I love that.
Doing good things now. We expect that a Howard University, that a Morehouse, that a Morgan, that a Tuskegee, that a Alabama A&M, that a Florida A&M, North Carolina A&T is a rival,
or NCCU,
NCC, that they foster this kind of spirit that you bring forward. You don't necessarily think of a Duke University doing that. Where did your fire come from?
My mom and my dad.
Tell me about that.
My father was a unionist, and he taught me about, economics early in life. Sure. He taught me, never get a second mortgage. He taught me about, the importance of work. He was really, really an incredible part. And my mom was all about education. She was solidly about, you got to get educated. My father set me down when I was 14 and said, Barbara, let me tell you something about life. You're a black woman. Yeah. He says, you must be educated, because if you get out there, you might become a domestic worker. You're going to be abused. You're going to be mistreated. And I don't want that to be your future. So he said, baby, I want you to take typing. I want you to become a stenographer. I want you to know about, how to, to have a professional career. He was only talking about what he knew at that time. Sure. He didn't know women could be lawyers. Yeah. He didn't know women could be doctors. He didn't understand we could be engineers, mathematicians, scientists. He didn't know. But because I listened to him, I pushed myself to do things that, and God was great in my life and made opportunities happen, and, and saved me, through grace. And so I was blessed, but at the same time, I worked hard, and because of those two parents that were in my life that influenced me so deeply, so powerfully. And then I was blessed with a whole lot of other good people, as you know, in our communities, there's always people who come up and say, baby girl, I saw that report card, here's $5. Yeah. Sure enough. Baby girl, we're so proud of you.
not just a cliche that it takes a village to raise a child. That's real.
It is. And so, those were the people who also kept me going, who said, you got to be somebody.
Yeah.
Who said, you don't have no option.
Yeah.
That was what changed me.
You live here locally. Have you been paying any attention to the Virginia race for governor?
Oh, yes.
There's some insanity going on. There is some insanity going on. Oh, well, I know you're nonpartisan.
Yes.
But I saw a report last night about Cuccinelli and all that's going on in his campaign. And the lieutenant governor, E.W. Jackson, that's running, who said that he was the chaplain for the Boston Red Sox, and the Boston Red Sox parent company, they looked at their records and said, we don't know who this is. They looked down through the minor leagues and said, he ain't never even said a prayer at a meal, let alone being our chaplain. And then he makes this claim, and look, he's not just doing this whispering somewhere where somebody caught him on a camera. He's got it on his website that he grew up with no indoor plumbing, and his sister said, we had a bathroom on the first floor right past the dining room. What's he talking about? What the hell is going on over there?
Well, you know what I think as well. Listen, Virginia's crazy. They just tried to purge 40,000 voters off the rolls. So every time there's an election, we have to really watch Virginia.
Yeah.
We have to be really aware, people, that the voter registration deadline is coming up really soon.
Yeah.
You got to get registered to vote in Virginia quick. I also want to remind people that the war on women is no joke in this country.
Let me tell you something.
The war on women, on our reproductive rights, on our ability to have, full employment. These people who want to see us barefoot and pregnant back in the kitchen. I mean, all this 1950s
and this invasive examination that they want.
Absolutely.
And if I remember correctly, Cuccinelli was all in support of it.
I got to say this in my nonpartisan hat, that women have to be equal, that you have to vote your conscience as a woman, and you have to make sure that women have the rights. I am a staunch, no doubt about it, 100% Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth.
Come on.
Womanist.
Hello.
I mean, let's be right up on it. All right, my sisters. All right.
Good God Almighty. Now y'all know why I said February the 23rd, I told Mark Lassiter, who's the producer, and everybody else on the team, we need to keep working to get Barbara Arnwine, because she's busy. Well, keep on trying, and now you understand why. This country and this world is a little better place because of your fire, because of your commitment.
Well, it's because you and I and so many people here and people who are listening, we all have this commitment. We are the movement.
Yeah.
One thing they never saw coming was us.
Yeah.
They had all these plans to suppress the vote, to do stuff, but they forgot about us.
Yeah.
They forgot about our power, what animates us. They forgot that the same people who walked across that Pettus Bridge and knew they were going to be beaten, and that spirit, there was the same spirit that animated people to stay in line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hours in Florida.
Yeah.
They forgot that that's who we are as a people, that we're not going to stop that we're going to spread our spirit around the world, where people in China can say, I want to be Rosa Parks, where people in Afghanistan can say, I want to be Rosa Parks. I mean, that we're going to spread that spirit where people are quoting Dr. King in Libya and so on. That's who we are to this world.
Yeah.
That's who we are to this nation. That's not going to change.
And tomorrow that's going to be reflected out by FedEx Field. Yes. Tell us about that just for a minute.
Yes, tomorrow at Morgan Boulevard Metro Station, right before the game between the Washington team with that offensive racist name and the Bears, the Chicago Bears, there's going to be a protest. And the purpose of it is an informational distribution so that people will know the history. A lot of people, when they
truly don't.
They really don't know.
They don't. I mean, they died in the Wolf fans.
And they don't know that we're not attacking the fact that you're a fan.
No.
We're not attacking the proud tradition of this team, but we are attacking its name.
Absolutely.
And
love the
because
team.
its name is evil.
Love the team, but get rid of the name.
Yes, and people, please, You know, think about it. If this team was named the Washington Sambles, we would be in
That's right.
We'd be hollering
That's
and
right.
screaming. We wouldn't even go too near it.
That's right.
So people, let's, have the same kind of compassion. Just because Native Americans are a small percentage of our population because of the genocide that was wreaked against them, it is important for us to do what we have always done, and that's to stand up for other people and to lift up their causes and to get rid of this name. Listen, we could be the Washington Proud.
Yeah.
We could be all kinds of other names that would have just as much power. We changed the Wizards' name. And I mean, remember, it was the Bullets.
Sure.
And Abe Poland,
And
without anything, just changed the name overnight.
That would be another step to the tagline of the Rock Newman Show, We Are One.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. God bless you, sister. I love you. I
Thank
love
you.
you.
Thank you, everybody.
Right. Folks,
Thank
we'll
you.
be right back with
Thank
Laura. That's Kelly Williams Jackson coming up in the next hour after these brief messages. Thank you.